I never thought my passion for swimming would lead me into the depths of a nightmare I can't escape. My name is Alex, and I've been a competitive swimmer since I was old enough to dive into a pool. The water always felt like home to me, a place where I could push my limits and find peace. But after what happened at the Blackwater Invitational, I don't know if I'll ever feel safe in the water again. It was supposed to be the highlight of my college swimming career. The Blackwater Invitational was held at an old, prestigious pool that had produced countless Olympians over the decades. Swimmers whispered about its almost mystical properties, how the water seemed to propel you faster, how records were shattered with uncanny regularity. I was thrilled to have qualified, eager to test myself against the best of the best. The moment I stepped into the natatorium, something felt off. The air was heavy, oppressive, carrying the sharp scent of chlorine tinged with something else, something metallic and unsettling. I tried to shake it off as pre-race jitters, but I couldn't ignore the way my skin prickled with goosebumps despite the humid warmth. As I changed into my racing suit, I overheard two other swimmers talking in hushed tones. "Did you hear about what happened to that guy from state last year?" one whispered. "You mean the one who shoo? We're not supposed to talk about it. They say the pool is cursed." I rolled my eyes. Every old venue had its share of urban legends. I was here to swim, not get spooked by ghost stories. But as I approached the starting block for my first heat, a chill ran down my spine that had nothing to do with the temperature. The water looked wrong. Too dark, too still. For a moment, I could have sworn I saw something moving beneath the surface, a flash of pale flesh that was gone in an instant. The starting horn blared, jolting me back to reality. I dove in, the familiar rush of adrenaline taking over. For the first few laps, everything felt normal. I was in the zone, my strokes powerful and efficient. But as I neared the wall for my final turn, something grabbed my ankle. I thrashed in panic, certain I was about to be disqualified for a false start. But when I surfaced, sputtering and confused, the race was still going on around me. None of the officials were blowing their whistles. It was as if no one had seen what happened. Shaken, I finished the race in last place. As I pulled myself out of the pool, I examined my ankle. There, clear as day, were 5 distinct bruises like fingerprints. "You okay, Alex?" my teammate Jake asked, concern etched on his face. "You kind of freaked out there at the end." I opened my mouth to explain, but the words caught in my throat. How could I describe what I'd felt without sounding crazy? "I'm fine," I lied. "Just got a cramp." That night, I tossed and turned in the hotel room, unable to shake the memory of that icy grip on my ankle. When I finally drifted off, my dreams were filled with dark water and reaching, grasping hands. The next morning, things got weirder. As we filed into the natatorium for warm-ups, a hush fell over the assembled swimmers. The pool was empty, no, drained. Bone dry. Coach Martinez was in heated discussion with the meet officials and the facility manager. I edged closer to listen. "Never happened before," the manager was saying, his face pale. "We've triple-checked the systems. There's no leak, no malfunction. It's like the water just vanished." Coach Martinez ran a hand through his thinning hair. "Well, how long until you can refill it? We've got finals this afternoon." The manager shook his head. "That's the thing. We've been trying to refill it all night. The water just disappears. like the pool is drinking it. A chill ran down my spine. I thought about those grasping hands, the bruises on my ankle. Was it possible? Just then, a scream echoed through the natatorium. We all turned to see Lizzie, one of our freshman swimmers, backing away from the edge of the pool, her eyes wide with terror. "There's something down there," she shrieked, pointing a trembling finger at the empty basin. We rushed to the edge, peering down into the deep end. At first, I saw nothing but smooth, white tile. Then, a movement caught my eye. A dark stain was spreading across the bottom of the pool, like ink blossoming on paper. As we watched in horrified fascination, the stain began to take shape, a human figure, reaching up towards us with elongated arms. Panic erupted. Swimmers and coaches alike scrambled away from the pool's edge. In the chaos, I felt a hand grab my wrist. It was Jake, his face ashen. "We need to get out of here," he said urgently. "Now." As we raced for the exit, I heard a sound that made my blood run cold, the unmistakable splash of water. Glancing over my shoulder, I saw the pool was filling rapidly, dark water churning and frothing as if alive. We barely made it out before the doors slammed shut behind us, trapping the screams of those left inside. The sound of rushing water grew to a deafening roar, then abruptly ceased. For a long moment, we stood there in shocked silence, staring at the closed doors. Then, slowly, terrifyingly, water began to seep out from underneath, bringing with it tendrils of that inky blackness. Jake tugged at my arm. "Alex, we have to go. Whatever that thing is, it's not done." As we ran from the natatorium, my mind raced. What had we awakened? What was lurking in the depths of that cursed pool? And how could we possibly stop it? The next few hours were a blur of police sirens, frantic phone calls, and hushed conversations. The official story was a catastrophic structural failure, but those of us who had been there knew the truth. Something ancient and malevolent had been disturbed, and it was hungry. That night, huddled in a different hotel room with Jake and a few other teammates who had escaped, we tried to piece together what we knew. "I've heard stories," Mia, our team captain, said in a low voice, "about the history of this place. They say the pool was built on sacred ground, that the original owners made some kind of deal with something. In exchange for athletic glory, they promised a sharp knock at the door cut her off." We all jumped, hearts racing. Jake cautiously approached the door, peering through the peephole. "It's Coach Martinez," he said, relief evident in his voice. He opened the door. The figure that stumbled and looked like our coach, but something was terribly wrong. His skin had a gray, waterlogged appearance, and when he opened his mouth to speak, dark water dribbled out. "You shouldn't have come here," he gurgled, his eyes rolling back to reveal only whites. "The pool must be fed. The bargain must be kept." We scrambled back in horror as Coach Martinez lurched towards us, hands outstretched. His fingers were elongated, tipped with wicked-looking claws. "Run!" I shouted, grabbing the nearest object, a lamp, and hurling it at the thing that used to be our coach. It connected with a wet thud, buying us precious seconds to bolt out of the room. As we raced down the hotel corridor, I could hear the slap of wet footsteps behind us, accompanied by an inhuman wailing that made my skin crawl. We burst into the stairwell, taking the steps two at a time. "What do we do?" Mia gasped as we emerged into the hotel lobby. "Where do we go?" I made a split-second decision. The pool. Whatever this is, it started there. Maybe we can end it there too. Jake looked at me like I was insane. Are you crazy? That's exactly where that thing wants us to go. Do you have a better idea? I shot back. We can't run forever. Reluctantly, the others agreed. We made our way back to the natatorium, the night air thick with an unnatural fog that seemed to cling to our skin. The doors to the facility were ajar, dark water pooling around the entrance. As we stepped inside, the smell hit us rotten decay and something ancient and wrong. The pool was full now, the water black as ink and eerily still. What now? Jake whispered, his voice tight with fear. Before I could answer, the surface of the pool began to ripple. Something was rising from the depths, a mass of tangled limbs and faces, all fused together in a nightmarish amalgamation of human and something else. A voice spoke, not with sound but directly into our minds, ancient and hungry and full of malice. You have come to fulfill the bargain, it said. Your strength, your youth, your potential, all will feed the pool. All will grant victory to those who swim in these blessed waters. I felt a pull, an irresistible urge to step forward, to let myself sink into those dark waters. From the glazed looks on my teammates' faces, I knew they felt it too. No, I managed to choke out, fighting against the compulsion with every ounce of willpower I possessed. We won't be your sacrifice. The thing in the pool roared, a sound of fury and frustration that shook the very foundations of the building. The water began to churn, tendrils of darkness lashing out towards us. The bargain must be kept. Coach Martinez's voice rang out. He stood at the other end of the pool, still in his waterlogged, monstrous form. The pool must be fed, or the consequences will be dire for all. As the tendrils of darkness wrapped around my ankles, trying to drag me into the pool, I knew we were out of options. We had to find a way to break this curse, to end the bargain that had turned this place into a feeding ground for something unspeakable. But how? What could possibly stand against a force this ancient, this powerful? As the water closed over my head, pulling me down into the inky blackness, I realized with a sinking heart that we might already be too late. The horror of the Blackwater Invitational was just beginning, and I feared none of us would live to see how it ended. As the dark water closed over my head, I expected to feel the burning in my lungs, the panic of drowning. Instead, I found myself in a void, suspended in nothingness. Around me, I could sense the presence of my teammates, their fear palpable even in this strange non-space. A voice, ancient and terrible, echoed through the darkness. You resist the bargain. Foolish children. Do you not understand the power that flows through these waters? Suddenly, visions flashed before my eyes, decades of swimmers achieving impossible feats, breaking records that should have been unbreakable. But with each triumph came a price. I saw the dark undercurrent of disappearances, of athletes who pushed too far and were never seen again. This is the true nature of victory, the voice intoned. Glory earned through sacrifice. Power bought with blood. I struggled against the visions, against the seductive pull of the promise they held. No, I managed to project my thoughts into the void. This isn't right. This isn't sport. It's murder. A chilling laugh reverberated around us. Murder? No, child. Apotheosis. Those who feed the pool become part of something greater. They achieve immortality in these waters. The darkness shifted, and I found myself face to face with a nightmarish amalgamation of bodies, the trapped souls of all who had been sacrificed to the pool over the years. Faces I recognized from old photos and record books contorted in eternal agony. "Join us," they whispered in unison, reaching out with gnarled, waterlogged hands. "Become one with the pool. Know true power." I recoiled in horror, frantically searching for a way out, a way to save myself and my teammates. That's when I noticed something, a faint glimmer in the darkness, pulsing like a heartbeat. Instinctively, I knew it was the source of the pool's power. With all my strength, I swam towards it, fighting against the current of souls trying to pull me back. I could hear my teammates struggling behind me, feel their resolve wavering. "Alex." Jake's voice cut through the chaos. "Whatever you're doing, hurry. I don't know how much longer we can hold out." As I neared the pulsing light, its true form became clear, a crystalline structure, black as night but shot through with veins of sickly green energy. This was the heart of the curse, the linchpin of the terrible bargain struck so long ago. I reached out to touch it, and the moment my fingers made contact, agony ripped through me. I saw flashes of the past, the original construction of the pool, the dark ritual performed to imbue it with power, the first unwitting sacrifices. Generations of pain and triumph, all bound up in this single point of darkness. The voice roared in fury. "You dare to touch the sacred heart. You will be unmade, your very essence scattered to the void." But something else was happening. As I held onto the crystal, I felt a connection not just to the pool's dark power, but to every swimmer who had ever challenged themselves in these waters. Their hopes, their dreams, their pure love of the sport, it all flowed through me. In that moment, I understood. The bargain that created this horror was built on a perversion of the true spirit of competition. It took the drive to excel, to push beyond limits, and twisted it into something monstrous. "No more," I gritted out, tightening my grip on the crystal. "This ends now." I focused all my will, all my own passion for swimming, into the crystal. I thought of early morning practices, of the burn in my muscles after a hard set, of the pure joy of slicing through the water. I thought of my teammates, of the camaraderie and shared struggle that defined our sport. The crystal began to crack, lines of bright, clean light spreading across its surface. "No," the voice howled. "You will doom us all." The trapped souls churned around me, some trying to stop me, others lending their strength to my effort. I felt Jake's hand on my shoulder, then Nia's, then others. Together, we poured everything we had into breaking the curse. With a sound like shattered glass amplified 1,000-fold, the crystal exploded. Light erupted everywhere, burning away the darkness. I heard screams, some of pain, some of release, as the trapped souls were finally freed. Then, nothing. I awoke gasping on the deck of the pool, surrounded by my equally dazed teammates. The water in the pool was clear now, no longer the inky black of before. There was no sign of the monstrous entity or the trapped souls. As we staggered to our feet, trying to process what had happened, the doors burst open. A flood of officials, paramedics, and wide-eyed spectators poured in. In the ensuing chaos of medical checks and police statements, I caught snippets of conversation that made my blood run cold. The natatorium had been sealed off for days, they said. No one had been able to get in or out. As far as the outside world was concerned, we had all been trapped by a structural collapse, presumed dead. How long had we been in that watery limbo? How much time had passed in the real world while we fought against the pool's ancient evil? As the adrenaline wore off, the full weight of our ordeal began to sink in. We had faced something beyond comprehension, something that defied the laws of nature and sanity. We had stared into the abyss, and somehow, against all odds, we had made it back. But as I watched the meet officials testing the pool water, as I saw swimmers already eyeing the starting blocks with eager anticipation, a chill ran down my spine. Had we truly defeated the evil, or merely disrupted it? What if our actions had only changed the nature of the bargain, not broken it entirely? I caught Jake's eye across the pool deck. He nodded grimly, and I knew he was thinking the same thing. This wasn't over. The Blackwater Invitational might be finished, but our fight against the dark undercurrents of the swimming world was just beginning. In the weeks that followed, life tried to return to normal. We went back to classes, back to practice, back to the familiar rhythm of life as college athletes. But things were different now. We carried the weight of our experience like an anchor, always aware of the darkness that lurked beneath the surface of our sport. I found myself unable to enter a pool without hesitation, my heart racing at the memory of those grasping, waterlogged hands. Night after night, I woke in a cold sweat, the echo of that ancient, hungry voice ringing in my ears. We tried to warn others, to spread the word about what we had encountered. But who would believe us? To the outside world, we were survivors of a tragic accident, nothing more. Our tales of supernatural bargains and soul-devouring pools were dismissed as trauma-induced delusions. But we knew the truth. And we knew we had to do something. It started small. We began researching other miraculous pools, other venues where records seemed to fall with unnatural regularity. We reached out to swimmers with stories of strange experiences, of unexplained phenomena during meets. Patterns emerged. Whispers of other bargains, other prices paid for athletic glory. We realized that what we had faced at Blackwater was just the tip of the iceberg. One night, as we pored over our growing collection of evidence, Mia voiced the question we'd all been avoiding. "What if it's not just swimming?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "What if this thing, whatever it is, has its hooks in other sports too?" The implications were staggering. How deep did this go? How many athletes had unknowingly fed some dark power with their sweat, their pain, their very souls? We knew we couldn't just ignore it. We had seen the horror firsthand, had nearly been consumed by it. We had a responsibility to fight back, to protect others from falling victim to the same fate. And so, our little group of survivors became something more. We became investigators, watchdogs, guardians against a threat that the world didn't even know existed. We trained not just for competitions now, but for the battles we knew lay ahead. But with each new discovery, each hint of darkness uncovered, the weight of our mission grew heavier. We were just college kids, after all. How could we hope to stand against forces that had existed for generations, that had sunk their tendrils deep into the very foundations of competitive sports? As I stand here now, on the starting block of another pool, in another city, I can't help but wonder what price we'll ultimately pay for our knowledge, for our fight against the darkness. The water below me looks clean, clear, inviting. But I know better now. I know that still waters can hide the deepest horrors. The starting horn blares, and I dive in. As I slice through the water, part of me is hyper-aware, searching for any sign of wrongness, any hint of that familiar, terrifying pull. But another part of me swims with a new purpose, a new fire. Because now, every race is more than just a competition. It's an act of defiance against the darkness. Every stroke, every breath is a declaration: we will not be sacrificed. We will not be consumed. We will fight, and we will win. But as I touch the wall and surface, gasping for air, I can't shake the feeling that our greatest challenge still lies ahead. The true horror of the sports world is still out there, waiting, watching. And someday soon, we'll have to face it head on. As I pull myself out of the pool, I exchange a knowing look with Jake, who's cheering from the sidelines. His eyes hold the same mix of determination and fear that I know is reflected in my own. We've seen behind the curtain, glimpsed the terrifying machinery that powers the world of competitive sports. And now that we know, we can never unknow. The fight continues. The water may seem calm on the surface, but we know the truth. In the world of sports, in the relentless pursuit of victory, there are depths of darkness that most can't even imagine. And we're the only ones standing between that darkness and the unsuspecting athletes who might become its next victims. As I wrap my towel around my shoulders, I steel myself for whatever comes next. Because I know now that the real race, the one that really matters, isn't one in the pool. It's one in the shadows, in the battles against forces that most will never see or understand. And failure? Failure isn't an option. Because if we fail, the cost will be measured not just in medals lost or records unbroken, but in souls devoured and lives destroyed. The true horror of sports is out there, growing stronger every day. And we're the only ones who can stop it. The question is, are we strong enough? Or will we, too, eventually be swept away by the dark currents we've chosen to fight? Only time will tell. But one thing's for certain: this is one race we can't afford to lose.